Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to one of the more exciting interviews that I've had in a while with Dirk from Xspectar and Bob Way. For a long time, Xspectar has been building on the XRP ledger, a metaverse, and they also have an accompanying NFT project to go along with that. But let me make something clear. I'm not the biggest fan of NFTs and metaverses, especially after we witnessed 2022 completely wash away most of the volume in those projects. But the reason I'm such a fan of this one is because I'm genuinely beginning to understand what it is that's being built. They are looking to create the Google of the metaverse, and they simplified down exactly what it is that they're trying to build to a T in this video. And in addition, for those of you that didn't know, Bobway was one of the first 10 employees at Ripple. And we break down some very important XRP information. Specifically, one of the things we talked about was an XRP price patent that I've heard rumors about for a long time. And we talked about whether or not the XRP price could be controlled by that patent at some point. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an exciting one for everyone that's interested. Please watch all the way through. And now, without further ado, please enjoy this interview with Bob Way and Dirk from Xspectar. And we are live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody from across the world. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to all of you the second round of these interviews with Dirk from Xspectar and yet another special guest, another member of Xspectar and a legendary XRP community member, Bob Way. We have a lot to discuss, not just about the project, but also about XRP as well. But before we got started, for people that don't know, Dirk, Bob, you want to give some little introductions to get people well acquainted with you guys?
Well, you know that I'm Dirk Scheppens. I've started Xspectar about 13 months ago. The initial idea was to launch some cool NFTs on the XRP ledger and implement some real-life business ideas in other metaverses. However, quite soon we realized that most other metaverses are mostly ideological promises and or built with Unity or like we thought it could be better, you know. So we decided to build a metaverse ourselves. And a couple of months ago, we were able to onboard Mr. Bob Way as chief of product, and he made a couple of changes to the concept, which are quite interesting.
Amazing. Bob, let's talk about it, man. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Well, it's great to be here, Bull. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
People don't know me, I'm Bob Way. I was employee number 10 at Ripple. I started in 2013 and I was at Ripple for 5 years till 2018. I was the first integration engineer. I talked to everybody who wanted to integrate with the XRP ledger, which was the Ripple ledger at the time. Then I was the first sales engineer. I talked to all of the bankers. I was on the research team. Turns out I have 23 patents with Ripple. I don't even remember applying for 23 patents, but that's what the patent office says.
I'll tell you what, that's a blessing, man. Accidentally successful with those.
So yeah, so in conjunction, of course, with Stephen Thomas and Evan Schwartz and some of the other guys, but I was part of those teams for the Intraledger protocol. And about everything that moves money across the XRP ledger, I was involved in pretty early on.
Incredible.
So
Incredible.
Following that, you know, I came back to the XRP community because that's where I started. You know, I'm frustrated because at the beginning, the Ripple ledger and the Ripple project itself, now we call it the XRP ledger, the XRPL project, was a grassroots movement to empower people over their own money. And so it really wasn't designed for bankers or central bankers or anybody else at the beginning. It just turned out to be really, really useful for those people. but it was
Mhm.
designed more for you and me and groups of people, and to use it as we see fit. And so I wanted to come out and talk to the community about using it that way again. Ripple's doing the big stuff with
Mm.
banks top down. I thought somebody else should do the bottom up part. So that's when I found Dirk. And the Xspectar
Excellent.
project is just the most awesome project for actually using the XRPL as money. Right? We're going to have a lot of people in the metaverse. There's a lot of value to be created and a lot of people to get paid, and
Excellent.
people to pay them.
Now, kind of along those lines, I do want to ask a question that you just inspired, actually. It's been stated, I believe it was Dilla Brow who stated that retail is a lot of noise. And I believe a lot of people have this notion that XRP wasn't necessarily for retail, right? But we do see a lot of retail use cases being built out. And I do think that ultimately there's going to be a nice institutional use case and an abundance of retail use cases. What is your take on the notion that XRP wasn't necessarily made for retail?
XRP was absolutely made for retail.
Very good.
And I totally respect Dilip. I worked closely with him. And sometimes you hear marketing pitches and things. And so while we were talking to banks, and banks didn't want XRP to be for retail. Banks wanted XRP to be for bankers and the XRP ledger to be only for bankers. And to them, you know, retail consumer level users were an inconvenience. So none of the marketing messages we made to those bankers talked about XRP being for consumers, but it absolutely was. Without rambling on too long, it was founded basically on the principles of Ryan Fugger's Ripple Pay, which was a system entirely designed for retail users, consumer level users, without banks or anybody else. It was, you know, the solution to banking and to people without access to the money system. So excellent.
So now everyone in the community, we could put to rest that we're not supposed to have or use XRP. We could put it to rest.
Put that to rest.
Amazing. Thank you for that. But now, as far as the Xspectar project is concerned, Dirk, you did mention that Bob has made since joined the team, which is incredible, and has since made a couple of changes as far as the project is concerned. Would you like to discuss what exactly those are, and Bob, what your role is over there, and what you see the vision being for the project?
Well, in the meantime, we made some changes. You know, we were quite successful with our token. We are the only project, as far as I know, that has a sold out NFT collection on the XRP ledger, 8,888 NFTs. We have about 2,015 unique wallets that are holding land or NFTs. Land sales started as well for the metaverse, also quite successful. But we're not building it as a game. I think that it's really important to focus on two things, and the most important one is the social aspect. Identity, be who you want to be. What do people want? They want to be amongst other people. They want to flock, group dynamics, interesting concept. People act differently when they are in a group. What do they want as well? They want to discover, they want to have a narrative, which is they want to be entertained, and they like to be able to communicate with each other. And of course, last but not least, is people like to make money. That's the business aspect. So I think that we're combining all of these things. You know, I think that we are building a system which provides entertainment in a virtual world where people can interact, very similar to real life, and where there is a paid money system that is built in, where people can create and get paid and it's peer-to-peer frictionless payments. And on top of that, we are building the platform that powers all of that. We use it as our native NFT marketplace, but also look at Web2 people and onboarding them by offering the possibility to create an account without a crypto wallet, purchase in-game digital assets with credit cards in fiat in collaboration with Stripe. And we are integrating other cryptocurrencies as well. You know that we have been flirting with Hugo from Flare. We are in very good contact with John McBee from XDC. Bob and I will be attending the XDC networking conference in Austin, in Texas, at the end of August as well. And then, of course, the AR community. But we are definitely looking into integrating as many chains as possible, EVM chains, smart contracts, and so on. However, our basis, of course, is the XRP ledger. And Bob probably can tell you more about that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So what was the question?
So yeah, so it was more or less like, what are some of the changes that you've helped inspire since you've gotten there? And yeah.
So really, the way I'm approaching this is different from most other Web3 metaverse projects. And I looked at people that call themselves Web3 metaverse projects. And what I saw was crypto ideology. Let's start with a DAO, then we'll all vote on what this is going to be. Then we'll do things that crypto anarchist libertarians like to do here. And we'll just presume everybody else is going to show up.
Yes.
Most of them haven't been very successful. And so I really didn't have that vision. When people say we're so early in crypto, what they mean is there's what, 200 million crypto people, if you're generous.
More or less,
that's less than the number of people that have Amazon accounts, right? It's far less than the number of people that have Alipay accounts or on WeChat in China.
And most of them are very passive as well, and probably aren't too invested anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. So fighting over these early crypto adopters doesn't really help anyone. It might help me, might help Dirk personally if we could get everybody to come in here and give us all their money, and then we could go retire to an island. But that's not changing the world. What's changing the world is changing the web itself, right? The web itself has 5 billion users. So you know, I've talked at other places, like we just want the early adopters. We just want the first billion, right? Because that changes the world. And so I look at this not as a crypto-centric project. I look at it as a people project. What makes people better as individuals and working as a group? And how do they empower themselves? Empower themselves, like Dirk said, over their identity. You could be whoever you want to be. You can change your nationality, right? And you can be on the web as somebody from somewhere else. We don't care. We remove discrimination because you literally discriminate means to tell the difference between. You can't tell the difference between people based on, you know, their inherent physical nature or their location, their geography in our metaverse. So everybody, we level the playing field. And fundamentally, if you look at the flaws in the web, the biggest flaw in the web is it didn't come with money. Everything else, every big platform we have is a money service fundamentally. And so we said, if we're going to redo the web, let's do the web on a foundation of money, symmetric money. So it's just as easy to receive money as it is to send money, which is the opposite of credit cards.
Yes.
So those are the changes I made. And instead of saying, oh, we're just going to make a flat world and everybody's going to come and they're going to build something. And I said, no, that's not very interesting to me because nobody really knows what it's going to be. Everybody's just looking at what today is. They don't have a clear vision. And my vision is people working together as in groups, just like you would go out in the real world with your friends. There's something to the experience of being with your friends and cutting up and doing crazy things that is the value of going out in the world with your friends. So what our metaverse is going out in the world with your friends and going from place to place like you would go on a, a pub crawl or go from, event to event in a big city. And the execution of that is not a platform. The goal is not to put everything on a blockchain and say, unless you use the blockchain, you can't use our new version of the web. The idea is to say, anybody who has a 3D experience that they want to put in our metaverse world, our new version of the web, the 3D version of the web, you build it and host it just like you would a web server. I'm not going to stop you. You don't need my permission. You get some free software, you build what you want, and you can connect it like you can with the web into the rest of the experiences. So people can move in groups from my experience to your experience, to Dirk's experience, to, Alice's experience here, looking for what they find the most compelling at any given moment. So it's fundamentally a different approach.
Yeah. So if I'm reading this correctly, it's a vision is 3D experiences open source through the Xspectar platform, and people can bring it over to the platform if they so choose. There's not going to be that many roadblocks to do it. Just come in and host your event and do your thing, and whoever wants to attend does their thing.
Right.
Amazing.
You build it and you can link it. So if you think about it conceptually, the World Wide Web is a web browser. You download a web browser on your own computer, and that's your piece of software, and web servers. And there's just a multitude of web servers. And if your browser can go from one web server to another web server through web links, we consider that all compatible. That's part of the World Wide Web, is everything you can surf in a browser. So what we're doing is recreating that. Instead of pages of text and content, each server is a 3D environment where people can gather as humans. There'll be avatars there, but they'll be in the same 3D environment, talking to each other, doing activities, cutting up, whatever they find interesting there. And so anybody can build a server that's a 3D environment, and we link them through doorways from one server to another server, which are the equivalent of web links.
So just because I want to make things clear for the audience at home as well, one of the big concerns that I've had about the whole NFT and metaverse space is that most are shit and most are exit scams. And you know this to be true. Xspectar is not that, because I know Dirk is a savage and he's a hard worker and he's been doing things correctly from the beginning, and you wouldn't come on board as well if you didn't believe that there's a vision here that could bring real change to the world. So I do believe Xspectar is building something real. But I also think that there's a big hesitancy after the $4 million rock pictures and after the land grabs that turned into no real virtual worlds even being built. There's a big hesitancy in even getting involved in the NFT or metaverse space again. A lot of people look at it as a flop. I look at it as a round one. Now the strongest survive. So my question to you is, are there technological limitations, and is there a learning curve that people need to go through in order to really understand and begin using a platform like Xspectar to start hosting events, right? Because to me, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so there will be a little bit of a learning curve, but we're working to make that as small as possible. And what we see as it turns out it just gets very complicated very, very quickly in terms of details. But to me, it's fairly simple. If you think of it as the idea of a web server and a web browser, then the Xspectar home world that we're calling, the part where there's the 88,000 plots of land, is really the first virtual space that everybody goes to when they open up the browser. They just end up in the Xspectar world, and you can walk around there. People can build in our Xspectar world their own buildings, but those buildings will have front doors on them, and you walk through the door, and that will be another server with an experience within, with some activities, with a bunch of people, working together or working against each other. If it's a game, right? They could be teams, they could be whatever somebody wants to build within the space. And that may be hosted by Xspectar, the company, or it may be hosted by themselves. And so we see our homeworld as the discovery area that people wander through looking for the most exciting things to do. So in that sense, what's the first thing you do when you go to the web? Well, today you go to Google and you search for something and then you go there, or you go to Twitter and you see a link and then you go away to somewhere else. We are that discovery area for the metaverse, but people may actually host their giant events on their own private server. And it might be token gated, where token gated is a fancy Web3 term, but for regular people in the real world, there's a term for that. We call it a ticket, right? If you go to a concert, you buy a ticket, and then you hand them the ticket for admittance into a show. That's essentially what token gating is. It's just using an NFT as a ticket. So we can do that, and we can allow certain people in and keep certain people out based on whether they bought a ticket or whether they have a membership card, right? So an NFT could be a membership card, and you go, well, if you own our membership card, you can get into any of these services or events here. And so to me, we turn an NFT, which is a very abstract thing, into a concrete digital good. And it's odd to call it both concrete and virtual, but in the virtual world, it's a real thing. It's a ray gun, right? It's not a picture of a ray gun or a receipt for a ray gun. It's an actual ray gun that you can use to blast holes in things if you want. And so we see the future of the Xspectarverse as people creating those digital things and selling them for money, and each one will have its own independent utility, not utility because we're a giant community of people who are trying to attract more people in there and a limited edition good. It's like a ray gun. We shoot at each other with it. That's the utility.
Amazing.
Well, I think the simplest way to explain the concept is an open world where, well, it's the next generation of the internet. It's the internet in 3D, where you come into the Xspectarverse land in an environment that we create and try to make as attractive as possible. And it's like the search engine is the Google. You arrive in a 3D search engine, and all the structures or buildings that you see are websites, but in 3D, are experiences hosted by us or third parties, companies, brands, individuals that create an experience within their structure. And the money transferring is built in. So it's not platform based, as you don't need credit cards anymore. You can do peer-to-peer payments. So if you create something, you can sell it directly to your customer without intervention of another party, and it's instant, of course.
Yes. Now, because of the limitations of technology, one, and two, people's knowledge of how to do 3D experiences, would you say would these experiences be built out and usable on a computer, or would you need more of a headset, or would it be more convenient down the road where maybe there are going to be wearables as well? Because I think that's going to be the real explosion of the metaverse, is where some type of wearables come into play as well. Is that something that you guys envision too?
Yeah, we're starting with a flat screen experience, like a game, mostly because it's the most reachable for most people. They have a computer that can do this. But we think if you are an entertainer or someone looking to do something interesting, so I call this we're here on YouTube, or at least we will be after we get off Zoom and you do a little editing.
Yes.
right? We're on YouTube, but you're on YouTube attracting an audience to YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube wasn't really designed for you to facilitate your attracting an audience and making money, right?
Mhm.
And maybe you make money from YouTube, maybe you don't. But YouTube certainly fights people making money in a lot of cases. It doesn't facilitate them. So we see people coming to the metaverse going, oh, I think the metaverse is cool because I could do skateboard tricks in the metaverse I couldn't do in the real world, right? And I want to do, you know, the equivalent of videos, but I want it to be a live thing of me doing weird tricks in here. Or I want to be a street performer in the metaverse, or I want to be a juggler in the metaverse. I want to attract an audience here. I want to be a newscaster. Anybody can do those things. We want to bring them into this space and allow them to attract an audience who then can pay them for being entertained, just like you would tip the guy who's performing on the street, or not if you didn't like him, or if you sit around and you watch a street performer. So that's the base level, minimal level of effort to put in, is come to the metaverse, be interesting, entertain people, and have them give you money. But if you want to go bigger, in +1, you could buy land, you could build a building, you could create an experience within, you could make digital goods, you could sell them in a shop, you could create a whole theme park with rides. There's no limit to what you can do. And so we think the first group of people that will be very valuable for us are people like you, who are looking to build an audience and entertain people, which is literally creating value out of thin air, right? What you do is valuable because people are entertained and intrigued, and they find it valuable. And so we think people like that coming to the metaverse will bring a lot of value with them. And also people who would love to build their own game, right? 3D game. They're just fascinated because they played a lot of 3D games, or they want to make movies. They want to do art in 3D. All of these people that are looking for a road in to turning their passion into an occupation or a vocation or something there, are going to come to the metaverse and just be fascinated with it. And it's those people who are smarter than me who are going to attract the real people and show us the real way. My job is just to give them a platform to allow them to do their thing, to allow people like you to be entertaining, or allow other people to be creative and build in the metaverse. And then we'll follow what they do and say, we could technologically make this easier for them. And that's the way it'll evolve.
Now, you don't have to sell me on the metaverse because I'm a very tech forward person, but I think this idea of these events, especially in a digital world, especially with creators or entertainers or celebrities creating these events in a digital world, is becoming more and more attractive, especially post the COVID era, right? There are still people today that are afraid to fly, afraid to go to events, and that's the unfortunate reality. The world has changed forever, and who knows what could happen in the future. Something I'm curious to know, that because I'm genuinely curious to know if it's possible, is if, let's say there could be, hypothetically, let's say I'm somewhere, let's say I'm at an event I'm hosting in New York, and let's say someone can hypothetically from Cambodia be there in the physical experience of where I am in New York, if the right technology exists. Let's say I have a video going and maybe they go into my event and they can see as if they're actually live there. Is that a possibility and something that's being worked on? Because I think that's something I would love to see happen.
So you mean out in a real physical space or in a virtual space? And
creating the physical, showcasing the physical space, but allowing people to virtually attend that physical space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're sort of working through those. We think that this is a platform for experimenting with those things. Because like my vision right now we're doing this interview, and thank you again for doing this, but we're here on Zoom, and we're physically in different places, but here we're in this virtual space called Zoom. And it's great, but after this ends, we're not together anymore, right? We can't do something else. We can't like go and have a beer and go, oh man, this show was awesome, you said the cleverest things. We could figure that out, but it's kind of clunky. But in the metaverse, we want to blend the events that you're in together with what do you do after? What did you do before that? How do you go?
Let's see.
And so, if you do an event, maybe you're doing this on video. Well, we're not looking at your face here, but for the people who do, they do a video show where people look at their face, and then after their show, they walk out into the virtual space and actually directly interact with people. And then like what you said, what's the opposite of that? What if we're in a physical space? How do people perceive that in a virtual space somewhere else? And how do we bring them into this physical space? Those are concepts we can explore because it's actually easier to explore them in the virtual space than it is in the physical world. If you were going to go have somebody in Cambodia show up in a physical space in New York, you might need a big screen where they can walk on and be standing there and you can look at them like you're in the real world. But that's a lot of hardware you got to build up front just to see if it works. We can experiment with that in the virtual space and then go, wow, that was really compelling. Let's go get a big, 60-inch, 80-inch monitor, turn it vertical and stand it up here so people can walk on. So I really think we're exploring all this because we're exploring what people do together. That's really the key to this next stage of the internet, not the technology, not can NVIDIA build a thing that ray traces more rays per second in the future, and oh, isn't that awesome? No, it's the people. What are the people doing together?
I understand. I really appreciate the way you explained it, because before we started this conversation, I was a little confused as far as the direction was concerned, but I see that's what's most important. Dirk, I have a question as far as the land sales are concerned, if that's all right, my brother. I'm curious to know what owning a piece of the Xspectar metaverse means and what that entails for the holders.
Well, if you purchase a parcel of land, which is a combined number of plots, at a certain moment in time, you will have your own space in our world, which is the discovery area, and you will be able to place your own structure on there, and you will be able to rent it out, use it for own purposes. Some people might purchase it for speculative reasons. So it's an interesting concept, and you will be one of the early adopters. You will definitely have your spot close to the Xspectar town square where all the people arrive.
Yes. Now,
it's kind of like, if you're old, and I can't tell if you're old, you don't sound very old. But in the early days of the web, there was Yahoo had a homepage, and Alta Vista had a homepage, and even Apple had a homepage with just a bunch of curated links on it. That would be the first thing that people saw when they opened up their browser. Because remember, there was a time before the web when actually you had to convince people to download the browser as an application and install it on their computer. And people go, well, why would I want to surf the web? I have America Online. Why?
I understand. Yes.
And so we're at that point now. It's like, why would you download this 3D browser and why would you go there? And then when I go there, what am I going to see? So the answer right now is you're going to see the Xspectar homeworld when you go there. And if you're a landowner and you bought a plot of land and you built a building on it, it's going to have signage out it saying what your experience is. It's going to have a front door that people enter in to do whatever you built, whether that's a store, whether that's Some people want to do yoga, teach yoga. Some people want to do therapy. Some people want to build guitars and show people how they're already professional guitar makers, and they want people to see the process and understand that, and they want to sell real world guitars. Other people are artists. They would like people to come in and watch them as an artist and be able to interact with them in certain ways. Whatever the experiences people want, they can build within the metaverse. And our job is to help people discover those experiences, because
Yes.
there isn't a Google that you can type this into and just go directly there. We want you to come to the metaverse and discover it with your friends while walking around, just like you would do in New York City or Paris or London, while you're having fun together.
Now, I found what you said very interesting, because what I'm getting at is that the landowners really are going to have to play a pivotal role in beginning the experiences kind of, and the drawing in of people, if I'm correct, because that's the initial that's kind of the initial how would you say, the initial wave of experiences, the initial
Exactly.
adopters, if you will. So they do have to play a bit of a role in making sure that it's something valuable and that people want to go to. I see.
Well,
Yeah,
and we
it's
have
a
quite a few of other projects, XRPL and building on other chains as well, that also purchased nice parcels of land. They will be coming with their communities. And we were surprised with the number of people that contacted us that purchased land and that actually have really good ideas. There are a few projects that are specialized in 3D design that are already collaborating with landowners. I just got invited to a Twitter DM group with a couple of our landowners, and they're discussing their ideas. So it's really interesting to see what people come up with and how creative people are. We are running a design contest as well. It's the World Building Contest in collaboration with a company called VR Division. People can apply and they can submit their structures or their 3D designs or their buildings that they want to design. And there's a prize pool up to $25,000 worth of Xspectar tokens. So definitely check that out as well.
Oh, wow. See,
and
go
you
ahead,
were
Bob.
right. I mean, the way you characterized it, that I struggle with the language and terms, but the term that I've hit on, which if you go to a theme park, if you go to Disneyland or Disney World, there's areas they're working on that aren't open yet. But if you look at what they call them attractions, right? Our next attraction is going to be this. That means it's a ride or an event or a thing here. So
Let's see.
I look at our landowners as attractions in that same sense. And if they come and they build something compelling that attracts people in, we will have a long and happy history. We will build the new web. The 3D web will be eternal, just like the other web is eternal, because it's run by a multitude of different people, all following their own passions here and doing amazing things. And so they are absolutely key to this process.
So what I'm getting is there are currently landowners that have future attractions under construction as we speak. Boom.
Boom.
Got it. Boom. Excellent. I love it. We're getting down the language, Bob. I promise we are. Let's see.
People have great ideas, and they are building, and we're working as fast as possible to help them integrate their stuff into our home world. So, but in the process, a lot of people are starting out and hiring artists and designers and designing their own buildings. Some amazing groups of people. But
part of what has drawn me into loving this project in particular, and having a lot of respect for Dirk for your vision and the work ethic, is because of you, for example, mentioning you have a contest at the moment and working with a VR company, right? That's trying to help build on there. Like I think that is a big thing that not enough people know. It's that most NFT and metaverse projects, they had an idea and a sale and they made their money and boom, off to Barbados or the Maldives. You guys, you're over here, you're holding contests, you're making partnerships, you're collaborating with the builders, the technologists, the people that are actually going to bring things onto the platform to actually make Xpectar maybe a Google of the metaverse, right? And to
Oh,
build the attractions that'll be the YouTubes or the Googles or the whatever other web browser that you want to mention for an Xpectar. So that's a key difference that I want everyone to realize is that we've been doing the networking and the groundwork, and that's very important. That's what makes the difference. So I really respect that.
well, we have
And
been very successful at community building in a very difficult year, and we reinvest everything back into the project, everything. So
and that's important to know too. It's been a difficult year. We're in the bear market where the builders build and the fly by night marketers just leave. So that's important to note as well.
some of the other stuff that's maybe interesting that we have a downloadable version of our Xpectar community hall, which can be used as an NFT art gallery. Almost 70 projects participate. It's free for projects to get their art in there, so they can just go to our website xspectar.com and apply, and they can use it to showcase their art. Their community members can download it as well, walk around in it. Multiplayer is activated, voice communication is activated, so they can have a first taste of what we are doing. And then our native marketplace, of course, that powers NFT sales is up and running also on xspectar.com, but we will be launching an additional product which will be a standalone marketplace, initially focused on the XRP ledger. However, we are integrating other chains as well. So that's something probably for the end of July. And again, not only fiat payments for land sales, but very soon other cryptocurrencies will be accepted as well. So there's more coming, and the standalone marketplace will give again more utility to the Xpectar token. People will be able to purchase NFTs in Xpectar as they can already on our own website. And the land, of course, if you're buying land at this stage and you're using Xpectar, you can still get an interesting discount.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, is there anything as far as Xpectar goes that I've missed that you want to discuss?
Probably there is so much.
There always is, right? There always
that
is.
we even forget. You know, it's difficult to keep things simple, to explain your vision and concept and how you're going to do it. But like, it's a tree. If you ask us, what are you building? Well, according to ourselves, it's the next generation internet. And what is it? Xpectar is a virtual environment where you enter the metaverse, or whatever you like to call it, which offers people the opportunity to be creative, to create structures, to host websites, but in 3D. And we are in very good contact with, for example, Link2. We all know Link2. They are planning to bring their community to the Xpectarverse as well, and maybe even open a virtual branch in the Xpectarverse where each and every 3D website creates a mini community within the Xpectar community, and where people can meet each other. And what Bob said is really important. You know, we can be together here, but we can't. I know that you're a tequila drinker. We can't have tequilas after, you know, but in the metaverse, you can do something before and after what you actually are coming to do. We can go to the movie theater, but we can discuss the movie afterwards, and we can have drinks before or do something else. And the whole thing of human interaction, that's a very strong thing. both from a social aspect as from a marketing aspect. And I think
Yes.
we're in contact. We have somebody that's running a business development leads, and we are in contact with quite a few companies and brands, and we will make some cool announcements in the next few weeks or months. And it's like there are two parts. One of them, the humans are always the center of everything. So we need individual creators, content creators, educators, whatever. And then there will be other bigger entities, companies and brands that will bring their communities, that will organize stuff. So we are working on lots of different things at the same time as usual. Huh?
Yes, yes. I expect nothing less, brother. Expect nothing less. Now, I do want to ask and get into XRP very quickly, if that's all right with you guys.
Sure.
Bob,
Not sure I have any special insights, but let's figure it out.
Bob, I actually have a very special question for you because, as you know, there are a lot of people in the XRP community that do like to speculate a lot. And sometimes the speculation is grounded in a lot of facts, and other times the speculation is grounded on, just things that aren't necessarily true. I think plenty of people have been guilty of it, and myself included. Back in the day, I used to believe some things that aren't necessarily true and have been disproven. So I'm very much trying to get to what is and what the reality is, and I think that's what's most important. But I did remember back in the day there being a rumor of there being a patent for the XRP price and allowing it to be stable at certain points. Is that something that is true?
I did file a patent and was awarded the patent. It wasn't stabilizing the XRP price because that's not really a feature that we really want. People want the XRP price to go up, but it's a patent on allowing XRP to become a bridge currency, even if the price is not stable. And so, is that the one you're talking about?
I believe so. And the only reason I'm very curious to this is because there's a lot of controversy amongst members of the community. People agree and disagree back and forth. And I personally wouldn't be a believer that XRP's price could be kind of stable at some given different points, but I constantly see in government documents, whether it's the IMF or maybe like Canada or some other governments, listing specifically XRP and XLM as stable coins. I don't know why they do it. I don't
nonsense,
know. Okay, so the governments are just getting it wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing stable about them. Fundamentally, if there's only a fixed number of anything, tokens, and I don't care if it's a fixed number of printed magazines, it's a fixed number of gold coins, it's a fixed number of cryptocurrency things. They can't, by definition, be stable in price. Because if more people want them, even if it's a magazine, right? Suddenly I want to collect this copy of some magazine because somebody said something outlandish and think it's going to be worth a lot in the future. And a bunch of people rush in to collect them. The price is going to go up. And the only way to keep the price from going up is to make more of the thing that everybody suddenly wants so that the price stays down. And you just can't do that with XRP or XLM or Bitcoin or Ether.
Understood. That's something that's been on my mind for quite a while because numerous things didn't make sense to me in regards to that. But thank you for clearing that up, and I'm sure a lot of people will be grateful to hear that as well.
But the patent is actually really important, although I have no idea if the problem with companies is the name stays the same, but the people turn over the years. So nobody really goes back through companies and says, okay, here's everything everybody that used to work here knew, and let me teach that all to you. so companies forget things. So maybe they
Yeah.
remember they have this patent, maybe they don't remember. I have no idea. I'd have to
Right.
I have to call Brad and say, Brad, do you remember we patented this?
Yes.
But
That's good.
but the key to the patent and its uniqueness as it relates to really Ripple specifically is for something to be a bridge currency. If you send payments through the XRP ledger, there's a feature called pathfinding, and
Yeah.
it calculates the lowest cost path to the sender. And if you want those paths to go through XRP, it has to be the lowest cost path. Otherwise, it will go around XRP.
Yes.
And so the problem with that, when people look at bridge currencies, what they're saying about stabilizing it is in order for something to be the lowest cost, it really has to be sort of a predictable cost. And if something is stable, it's easy to make a narrow spread on trading it because the price never moves. If the price moves a lot, the spreads get wider because people don't know which direction it's going to move. And so if you're doing a bridge currency, you actually have to do twice as many trades. I have to trade dollars for XRP and XRP for euros. And I have to add on the fees caused by both of those spreads. So if I want that to be the cheapest path, it has to have each section, the dollars to XRP and the XRP to euros, has to be less than half of the dollar to euro direct market spread. And so how can you do that? Well, if you happen to have a giant pile of XRP, you can actually incentivize traders to create a narrower spread by supplementing them with some XRP to make that a narrow spread. And then as more people trade and the volume goes up, you can show that that will basically drain all of the other markets of liquidity because all of the trades are going through this market. And the profitability in trading something is the spread times the number of transactions. And if you drain all the transactions away, you drain the profitability of the other markets. So you can actually force everything to go through XRP as a bridge currency if you hold some XRP and you use that in that way, which is sort of what Bitcoin does and Ethereum does with mining or these other block rewards, except you're rewarding a different group of people. Bitcoin rewards miners. This algorithm would reward market makers or liquidity providers because that's in the long-term benefit of the whole ecosystem. So anyway, that's what that patent is about. And I really love to talk more about that, just if only to remind Ripple that they own this patent.
Excellent. Let them know and let's see what happens. Let them
exactly.
Excellent. But as far as XRP is concerned, that was really my biggest question because that was something a couple community members did want me to ask you. But if there's anything else that you did want to bring up that you may have heard or that you feel is important for us to know, I'd love to send that message out.
Well, I'm still bullish on XRP. That's the only thing that I'll say. I really don't encourage people. I don't give people investment advice because I don't think of myself as being a particularly savvy trader of things in the day-to-day trading market. But people ask me, do I still hold XRP? And yes, I hold XRP almost exclusively. And I say almost exclusively because I also hold Xspectar tokens now because I get paid in Xspectar tokens. Thank you, Dirk.
Excellent.
So those things I hold Ripple stock still, and I don't really hold any other cryptocurrencies unless they happen to be airdropped on me.
Excellent. That's good to know.
Well, I think it shows quite confidence of Bob as well, and it's radiates trust to people in the XRP and XRPL community. Me being able to onboard him, him getting paid in Xspectar tokens. Well, he must be crazy if he wouldn't believe in what we were building. No, he could well, he was retired, overviewing a nice lake somewhere in Texas, and he chose to work almost day and night alongside me. And
And
we're
yeah,
very realistic, you know. I don't know what's going to happen. I can only promise you that we will fight like lions to make it happen.
and that's all people can ask, right? And that just goes to show, someone who was, I believe you said, the 10th employee over at Ripple, someone who was the 10th employee over at Ripple wouldn't come out of retirement for a project that weren't fighting like lions to bring it into a reality. So, or maybe bring it into the virtual world, should I say? But
Yeah, and it's bringing it into the virtual world is bringing the virtual world to the XRPL. And it's
Yeah.
really, when you think of, to me, the problem I see with cryptocurrency is so few people use it every day as money, right? Everybody uses it to hodl, to speculate on and hope it's going to come up, go up in price, but nobody uses it as money. Because there's really not that much stuff you can buy with cryptocurrency as money. And it doesn't actually improve very many things. If I buy products from China in XRP, the money gets there in 4 seconds, but my goods don't get back to me in 4 seconds.
Yes.
But if I buy digital goods from somebody in China, the money will get there in 4 seconds and the goods will get to me in 4 seconds. And I really think that's a very compelling way to bootstrap a real world ecosystem that uses the XRPL, the ledger itself, as its money system. And keep in mind, the money system is just how a group of people talks to each other when they are exchanging value. So that's what I'm really promoting. I'm promoting XRPL as a money system, which is a community of people that use it to exchange value, you know, payments in a currency for a digital good or service or some other good or service. And the Xspectar is just a fantastic way to bootstrap that. And so I'm wholly committed to doing that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. Dirk, Bob, it was an absolute pleasure. I genuinely appreciate you guys taking the time out, and I hope people see the vision as much as I do and as much as you guys do, because I know you guys are always working. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill.
Much love.